I'm going to beat myself now.
Awesome. So, alive in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then it gives us, like music, like we're on the news or something like that. History. But no, okay, so I don't know how we're exactly going to get into this, but we'll just act like we're breaking into it, and then when we can cut this recording and make it like it happens. All right. All right, hello. Welcome, everybody. Happy to have all you guys here. We got Ryan Box, Zach Stair, Alex Camerata, Michael Logman, Bryce Weindell, our resident seminarians from ICD. Why don't you introduce yourselves, boys? Say a little bit about you. Who was your middle school crush? I'm just kidding. But why don't you just share your name and where you went to high school and what year of seminary you guys are in right now. So just in no particular order. Just fire it off.
I can go.
Oh, awkward. Ryan, go.
All right, fine. Hello, everybody of the Prairie. I'm Ryan Box. I graduated from St. Dominic High School, and I am currently a freshman in the college.
Hello, everybody. Alex Camerata here. 2018 graduate of St. Dominic High School and ICD Youth Group. ICD 8th grade graduating class of 2014. 2014 CYC Golf runner-up championship. Yeah, there's a deep one there. I am a sophomore in college seminary, about 2 weeks away, I guess, from being a junior, God willing. And fun fact about myself, many people might not know this. I know many of these guys here know this, but really enjoy watching sports compilation videos. So like there's these like epic like 30-minute videos on YouTube that are called like greatest sports moments. And they're probably called like greatest sports moment from like 2000 to 2019 or something like that. Just really gets me going. I really enjoy it. Guilty pleasure. All right.
Alex, I actually point out the other day I was watching a sports compilation video, and I just had immediate flashbacks to all of those times on the pro-life pilgrimage where we'd be watching those sports compilation videos in the hotel room.
Yeah, it's a trap, but it's a good time.
Sorry. Anyways, Bryce,
I'm Bryce Weindell. I graduated from St. Dominic in 2017. No sporting accomplishments to my name, but you get there. ICD 2013, and I am a junior in the college, soon to be a senior.
Hello, everybody. My name is Michael Logman, ICD graduate, class of 2013, St. Dominic High School graduate, class of 2017, and currently a junior in Cardinal Glen College.
I'm Zach Stair, ICD graduate of 2015, and went to CBC, class of 2019, and I'm a freshman in college seminary.
Hey, very excited. Well, awesome. So I'm just excited to be here with all you boys today. You guys know I had a lot of love for you, and I'm excited for the youth ministry and hopefully the parish at large to get a little bit more of a glimpse of your vocations and your ideas on vocations. But kind of the genesis of this started, I just had this idea one day, texted the boys about it of like, why don't we use this time to talk about vocations? And ACAM had the awesome idea of all of us talking together and doing like sort of a roundtable on vocations. So for the next 45 minutes to an hour or so, these boys are going to grace you with their personal stories on vocation, and also some advice that they have and some questions that they might commonly get about vocations, and some things that they want to offer to you guys as you might be thinking about vocations as well. I'm Matthew, by the way. I'm not in the seminary, and I am happily married. So, cheers. But yeah, just to get into it, we'll just whip around and ask you guys about your vocations, and I guess more so like what has happened up to this point that's led you to being in the seminary, and some certain things that like God has put on your heart throughout your life that have led you to this point that you are studying at Kenrick now. Obviously, we know that doesn't mean you are 100% going to be a priest, but at least right now that you are heavily open to that desire, and are desiring priesthood, desiring the priesthood for your life. So why don't we get started with Alex?
All right. So yeah, like I said, I grew up in ICD parish, went to ICD my whole grade school career, been going to Catholic school, obviously. So I always kind of say that I kind of just like fell into the seminary because like I was a rule follower. Like that's just like I was always a rule follower growing up. Like you can ask the guys that I would hang out with about that, but it was, I don't know, it just like made sense to me to follow the rules. I don't know why. And so like I think that like translated into me like taking the faith opportunities that we had, especially through ICD Youth Group, more seriously. I can't say like that I took the faith super seriously in grade school, but I definitely started to take it seriously when I got to high school, and Luke 18 preparation came around. Like 8th grade year, like getting confirmed. That had a big impact on my faith life in general, and just kind of like, hey, like there's rules to this religion, but there's also this relationship like with God in the midst of that. Yeah, so like kind of from that moment, I just really pursued my faith throughout my high school career, and just strove to surround myself with good people in high school. And one of the best ways that I found to do that was just to spend time at ICD with the youth ministry there, especially getting to know many of these guys in the chat right now. Yeah, so like my kind of entrance into seminary this is super dramatic, but I just kind of found myself around the seminary at times in high school, going on different retreats and helping out with the different camps at the seminary. A lot of that was due to the younger priests that we had at ICD at the time. Like kind of going back to my middle school years, we had guys like Father Foy and Father Nick, and so they were really big influences on me. And then when I got to high school, around that time, like Father Ryan Weber and Father Alex Nord were some other priests that came around. Yeah, and I was always just very very moved by their zeal and the way that they practice the faith. And I just remember thinking Father Ryan Weber was just like super funny and like super normal. And so like I was kind of gravitated to that, and just like made a good friendship with him in high school and like many of the other guys in the youth group. And he just really like, he was goofy and we could go and have fun at youth group, but like he was also very prayerful at the same time. And he really encouraged us to take the faith seriously, to take prayer seriously, the sacrament seriously. Yeah, so he was really Father Weber was the one that really convinced me to start going on the different retreats at the seminary. And then, yeah, it's kind of, it was just kind of logical from there. It was just like, yeah, like this makes sense. I feel peace here. Like this makes sense to enter right after high school. So yeah, I entered right after high school, and here I am now, about ready to be a junior. So that's kind of a quick synopsis of it, I guess.
Cool, awesome. Hey, Cam, you talking about that just reminded me. Do you remember that Luke 18 where Father Ryan, remember he like incensed the church before we went to adoration? Yeah. And it was really like you went into the church and it was like at eye level, the church was like white up because
he sent me a picture, actually. It like came up on like what's that, like a Facebook memory or whatever. He sent me a picture, like it was like 2 or 3 days ago. He's like so much incense that night. Like it was a very Father Weber text. It was good.
I think we had like 3 or 4 kids go to the back of the church that night and like were crying because they couldn't see. I guess Father Weber thought it was working. Bryce, what about share?
Yeah. So I guess my vocation story kind of starts when I'm born, which is interesting. But so when I was born, there was some complications. Couldn't breathe well, basically. I don't remember. And my mom she was told, there's a chance that your son may not make it. And my mom kind of told me this story pretty much just before I entered seminary, but she was praying that night that she was told, and she said, Lord, if you let me keep my son, I will dedicate him to you, which is really awesome. And it's something that I do want to clarify. Like, you don't have to, like, from birth get a sign that maybe, like, go to seminary. Because I didn't know for a super long time. But yeah, so I guess it really kind of starts in my head around 7th or 8th grade at ICD. Father Foy and Father Winker, after school on Tuesdays, would hang out with 7th and 8th grade guys. And that was my first chance to kind of know priests. Before it had always been kind of that guy on the altar. And like, I didn't know where priests came from or anything like that. And so getting to know them and finding them to be like cool guys, and just like, wow, okay. And it just kind of opened the door in my head. It was very far back, but it was an idea. And then started going to things at the seminary, like Kenrick Glennon Days, our summer camp. And then in high school, come and see retreats that we do 2 weekends out of the year. And just getting to know seminarians was really, really wonderful for me. Just because it was something that, I didn't know about guys who were, relatively close to my age, who wanted to dedicate themselves in this way and who wanted to be priests. And that kind of, just that zeal for faith really kind of blew me away. And so the idea kind of started growing and growing and growing. But, I had some problems in high school, a lot, like with sort of like self-confidence and things like that. And, just kind of got to a point where I didn't really want to put up with it anymore. I wanted to change. And went on a really wonderful retreat my junior year, my Kairos retreat, where which is actually where I learned of this story from my mother, and kind of was in this moment in my life where I had finally been able to kind of talk about the events of my life when I really struggled and really found God in those times. And, being able to share, being able to be open with people was absolutely life-changing for me. And I was at this point where I was like, where do I go next? And then I get a letter from my mom telling me this story from when I was born. That was, and that was kind of it's one of these things that, most of the time, I think in discernment, it's little things that God presents to you that you're likely not going to recognize them all until, you make a choice or you start looking back on them. Discernment is a slow process. But for me, it was kind of a slap in the face of like, no, here's what you should do. Like, it's pretty clear, at least that I was called to go to seminary. And so just kind of grew a lot from there, because it was something that I think for a lot of young people, especially for myself, like kind of early on in high school, I felt, I could go to seminary, but I'm not faithful enough. I don't have the right amount of faith or whatever. And I think that's a pretty kind of bold-faced lie, because, you don't know. And it was something that was, for me, I thought maybe I was going to get enough by the time I got to seminary. And then when I get to seminary, faith life was totally changed, and like grew so much more. And so I think that's a good point, is that like, you're not really unfaithful enough to stay out of seminary. We're accepting a lot in that way. So yeah, I mean, just kind of senior year, I remember getting my acceptance letter and then going to school the next day and seeing a picture of me holding it in front of my dirty kitchen, all over the different like TVs around the building. And I was like, well, I hope people don't notice that second part, but yeah, it was really wonderful, and just continuing to grow in my discernment. So
Beautiful. That was awesome, Bryce. I never heard, like, I know bits and pieces of your vocation story, but I've never heard that part of it. So that was really beautiful. Thanks for sharing.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Z, what about you? Would you care to share?
Yeah, I think kind of started for me when I was relatively young, probably around first grade. Brother Steve Gilgin was at ICD, and I just really looked up to him and his example of holiness, and like I just wanted to be like him and be a priest. And then kind of over the years, that desire just went down, like going through grade school and stuff. And it would come up like here and there, but I would never really pay attention to it, just kind of put it in the background and try not to think about it. And then going into high school, going on some of the retreats with ICD, like Luke 18, Steubenville. And I think on the first Steubenville conference I went on, I just kind of felt this sense in prayer of like, come follow me. And at first I didn't really know what that exactly meant. I was just kind of like, yeah, of course I'll do that, you know. And the next day of the conference, I kind of had this realization that like what the Lord was communicating to me was something pertaining to the priesthood, and that kind of shocked me at first, and just felt very uncomfortable, and didn't really want to think about that or do it too seriously. Kind of again put it in the back of my mind, and then throughout the first years of high school, I was just kind of like I feel like I was kind of putting my toes in the water with the faith, like coming on retreats here and there, but just not fully going all in, just like still having those things that were holding me back from a real relationship with Jesus. And yeah, and then I think it was kind of going into my junior year. Um, I've been going to youth group a little bit, and on that Steubenville conference that summer, I just like really, I don't know, I can't really describe the experience, but afterwards, I really just went all in for the faith. Um, I really decided that discernment for the priesthood and seminary is something that I needed to take seriously, and that I really needed to have this personal relationship with Jesus. And at that time, I had a great group of friends at ICD Youth Group, and um, there was Michael and Alex. Like I literally looked up to them, and I knew they were thinking about seminary, already in seminary, and um, I just started coming around to the seminary more as I was starting to think about the priesthood a little more and really diving deep into my faith. And I just kind of felt a sense of peace when I was there. Um, looking at other colleges and exploring other opportunities of what I was going to do, I just didn't really feel a lot of peace when I was doing that. But for some reason, at the seminary and in prayer, I just kind of felt a sense of peace with going in. And so these feelings in prayer kind of continued, and continued thinking about it. And I took out my application to the seminary the fall of senior year, and I think kind of the last like major point was on the fall ICD fall retreat my senior year. We had like, I'm not sure what you would call it, Matt, like the like desert hour or something, monastic hour thing. But we were just
Yeah.
kind of had this silence outside for like an hour and just kind of do our own personal prayer. And I was just kind of walking around like, and going into that, I kind of was just kind of asking the Lord for guidance and in all of this. And kind of during that, I just kind of felt the Father just telling me like, go where there's peace. And I just really knew exactly what he meant by that. Like, I know that seminary is where I have found this peace in my discernment and thinking about it. And I, yeah, just kind of continued on with that application and just finishing up my first year of seminary now. It's been a really great year, and really looking forward to what the Lord has in store next.
Cool, awesome. Thanks, E. How about Michael and then Ryan?
Yep. All right. So I would say for myself, the beginnings, first kind of thought of the priesthood occurred when I was in 8th grade. And so, yeah, during that time in 8th grade, I was going through all the normal preparation for confirmation. And so, kind of a more catechesis, more like kind of getting into like, the step that this meant as being confirmed in the church. And so was learning a lot more about the faith. And was also getting ready to go on Luke 18, so the opportunity for 8th graders confirmation retreat in order to prepare. And so I remember going on that retreat and just the Lord really just like waking me up and like showing me like one, just coming to realize like how much like his love for me and like really kind of placing within my heart like a deeper call to come and follow him, kind of set aside the different things that were holding me back from him. And so during that time, I remember it was during 8th grade, I was in adoration with my dad. And I remember just sitting there praying, and then all of a sudden this thought came to mind, or however the Lord introduced it. He was just like, have you ever thought about the priesthood? And I remember kind of sitting there before Jesus in our beloved ICD chapel. He's up there on the altar and just like looking up there, and I was just like, almost like pointing my finger, just like stop, quit it, like no. It's like I remember just like it was met with like a lot of resistance because like in 8th grade I had this like vision of like what I wanted to be when I grew up, and like we're constantly asked like what do you want to do when you grow up, and like all I knew is that I wanted to have a family, basically like the American dream, right? Have a family, nice house, nice lawn, of course gotta have a nice lawn, beautiful children, beautiful wife, nice car, all that stuff. I was like
Just driving my life now, Michael, so do me a lot of favors.
I know you're living it up, man. It's great. So it was like had this like beautiful idea of like what I had built up of like what I wanted, and pretty quickly like the Lord was just like, maybe you should ask me what I want. And so he kind of put that there, and like I said, met with resistance. I was pretty emotional at the time. I remember talking to my dad after adoration. I was like, why am I thinking about this? Like, why did he do this? Like, why? And so like, talking to him, he was just like, just continue to like, just pray about it. And so like, kind of what that came to though, was like that first initial call, it was kind of like, yes, take a step, but it was also Jesus. And so that, I think, just like realizing that being the basis of my vocation story was the Lord just inviting desires for me to live a life of virtue, to live a life far greater than anything that I could ever do. So anyway, after that, went to high school, and kind of put it on the back burner. Some of the guys kind of mentioned that it's just like have that first initial thing and then just kind of set it back on the back burner. And so going into high school, trying to figure out like, what is this like? What is this like? I just want to fit in and be well liked. And so I just kind of put it on the back burner, and, I was like, Lord, maybe we'll talk about this priesthood thing some other time, but, I will follow you and I'll start working on a relationship with you. But yeah, we'll talk about it later. And so, started going through high school. And like I said, had it on the back burner. And then until my sophomore year, it was kind of just like another kind of a smack in the face, to where it was just like the Lord was like, I don't know why you've put this on the back burner. And like as a result of putting it back and just kind of ignoring that first initial call, I continued like almost drifting away. And so like again, it was just kind of like to grow in relationship with. So it was my sophomore year when I actually came back to youth group and started spending more time with a community of people that were conducive to encouraging me and growing in holiness and growing in virtue. People were truly leading me to Jesus. And so to see like how influential like healthy friendships were for me really transformed my entire faith life. And so I was going on retreats and started taking these things more seriously and just like seeing what the Lord did with kind of that surrender of just saying like, you told me once, I ran it. You told me again, like, all right, let's do it. And so I think one thing, I mean, especially just kind of reflecting, especially in this Easter season, we continue vocation as I kind of continue to grow a relationship is what John and Peter said. And it's just like, it's impossible for us not to speak about what we have seen and what we've heard. And just like how true that was for myself in high school, where like, I'd received these things from Jesus of like experiencing his love and experiencing like what relationship was like with him. And like, I was looking around, I was like, who can I tell? How I ended up on these retreats and things like that, but started growing in relationship with the seminarians there, and like talking to these guys who had been in my footsteps only like a couple years ago, and being able to answer these questions that I'm sure they had themselves. Getting closer to priests at the parish like Father Weber, and talking to them, and being able to come to them and ask them like what is going on, and so being able to kind of find that there. And so yeah, just like being there and just continuing to ask the Lord what it was. I felt that in my senior year of high school, just again, just like as I was praying through my sophomore, junior, senior year, like, like priesthood, like I could be calling you to be a priest, and just like, so a senior year, decided to take that step, and just like, I feel like the Lord has placed this heart to really my life to sharing with others this relationship with Jesus.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Mike. And just like, not to, dote on you or you and Bryce, but like, I just want to, you sharing that kind of just like reminded me of how, like, I don't know, I think it's awesome that you were talking about reaching out to those guys in the seminary and like really getting a sense of what life was like, and those people being an inspiration to you along with other people in your life. But like, I mean, I don't know, I just think like within our parish, and I think of Zach and Alex and Ryan, but also countless other seminarians that are freshmen and sophomores now in the seminary. And like, I mean, you and Bryce were like you were like the forefront, like you guys really did so much to like unleash, I think, the idea of vocations in a lot of guys' mind. I definitely know I can speak for Zach, Alex, and Ryan that you did for them too. So I don't know. It's awesome to see the witness of faith that you guys had, and leading the charge in the seminary now, so to speak. So last but not least, Ryan Box.
Hello. For myself, I think that if there was like a word or an idea that would kind of sum up how God has called me to seminary, it would just be my desires. And I think like regardless of whatever vocation you're called to, or if you're even practicing the faith, there is certain desires just that we have that are kind of undeniable. And like some of those may be just like fulfillment and purpose and intimacy and joy, just simple things and fundamental things like that. And until my sophomore year, those desires really like weren't in my mind and like weren't really on my heart to even like really think about those ideas and like those concepts. And so my freshman and sophomore year, I kind of got involved into, I guess you could say, like a semi-typical high school experience of just having started very habitual sins and been involved with certain groups of people that weren't really supporting me in the faith at all. And like living that lifestyle just led me to like a sense of like unfulfillment and like not really having a purpose, and just like wondering where I was going to find these desires fulfilled in my life. And that curiosity kind of led me to the sacrament of confession. And it was in the forgiveness that Christ had for me, that he just showed me that like, this is where I'm going to fulfill your desires. And so at that moment, I was kind of seeing a desire to grow with our Lord and to give more of myself to him. But I was still, I kind of said I was still kind of living half a life, um, doing things during school and then like having these desires to grow with the Lord after school and stuff like that. And it wasn't until really the pro-life march of my junior year that I saw seminarians for the first time. And Michael was actually one of them. And I'd become pretty close with Alex, and he's the one that introduced me to a lot of those seminarians. And it was in those men that I saw just that joy that I had always wanted. And I knew that just in my heart, when I met them, that joy and that happiness that they had was from their like deep and intimate relationship with the Lord. And so from that moment on, I had this idea of like, all right, like I feel like I'm being drawn to seminary just because like I need that fulfillment and that joy that those men have. But with that being said, there are still a lot of things in my life that are like tugging on my heart and a lot of sacrifices that I knew I would have to make if I were to go to seminary. And so like there was a brief period of time, like in the spring of my junior year after I had went on the pro-life march, when I was just like, Jesus was pulling my heart one way and there was things pulling my heart the other way. And I was just like getting stressed up about this. And it's causing me to like freak out about my relationships with like my parents, with friends and everything. And I came to the realization that stress was rooted in this idea of my head that I was going to do something for God, that my life was ultimately like what's going to bring the Lord happiness or whatever. And I found a peace with that struggle whenever I just in prayer felt the Lord just let me know that it's not what I'm going to do for the Lord, it's what he's going to do through me. And that everything about my vocation is from him, and it's complete. Everything is a gift from him pretty much. So I continue to discern and I continue to feel not necessarily a desire for the priesthood, but a desire for just a deeper intimacy with the Lord. And just being able to give myself to the Lord in a deeper way. And throughout that whole entire process, like the seminary was where I knew that could only happen. And that if I were to go to a secular college or just anything else in life, like I would let myself get lost. And I knew that the seminary was a place where these priests and where Christ teaches men to love pretty much. And that desire to learn how to love and that desire for Jesus ultimately just became undeniable. So regardless of any of the heart tugs on my heart pulling me in different directions, I knew that the Lord was calling me to seminary. And even in just my first year in seminary, the Lord has already fulfilled those desires in ways that I could never imagine. Just giving me brothers who know me and love me more than anybody I've ever known. And just being able to have that environment where I'm encouraged to go to him every morning and just give myself to him. And there's nothing more fulfilling than that, really. So I think that's kind of a brief summary of everything, but yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. Ryan, question for you. Was there any point before your sophomore year where you thought about the
I had people told me I could be a priest, or I was always that kid I went to St. Paul. A lot of people already know that. And then I got involved with ICD in high school. But I had teachers tell me that like I could be a priest because I was always the kid who knew the Bible stories. So somewhere in grade school, there's a connection there where teachers think you are going to be a priest if you know Bible stories. But regardless, I was still like in 6th grade and I was still like an immature 8th grader. And so honestly, I really didn't care at all about the faith, or just, I wouldn't say I didn't care. I didn't know the reality of the truth that the church provided. And so once my eyes were kind of open to what life actually is about and the reality of Christ, then I think that's kind of what happened. But yeah, I think a lot of those desires were just undeveloped in grade school, and they didn't come into effect until high school, really.
Yeah, sure. So for somebody, I'm putting myself in the mind of like someone discerning a vocation. Would you say that like in order to be called to a vocation of the priesthood, in order to like, take the jump and take out an application, go to seminary, if I was like a high school boy, like, do I have to be someone who has thought about the priesthood all my life? Or do I have to be someone who like, ever since I was born, I can remember thinking about the priesthood? Or like, do you think that it's more so about like responding to the graces of God unfolding within your life? It can. Go for it.
I would say no, you don't have to be someone who thought about being a priest. I had a very similar experience to Ryan. Like, I didn't start thinking about it until like I was a sophomore, I think, in high school. But I think kind of hinting to a little bit of your question, Matt, is something that pretty much all of us mentioned, was just like the importance of the growth in faith that took place before like we like answered the call to seminary. Just like, I can speak for all of us to think we were like, the moment that maybe we received the calls, like we were too immature to receive it at the time. Like there was a lot of spiritual maturity that needed to take place. And this is where I just really want to give props to you, Matt, for like the things that you do at ICD Youth Group. Like specifically, I just think of like all the times that I treated the youth group as like a social club, and like when I would go, like I just wanted to hang out and talk to my friends. And then like those times that we would be challenged to pray, like in adoration, or like, at the end of guys group, we're having fun playing sports, and it's just like, all right, let's go to the chapel 30 minutes. Just like, oh no, like basketball. But but it's just like, I say this because I know that many of the people in the youth group now might be experiencing something like this, where it's just like, yeah, this is fun, but like, oh, I don't want to go pray, but like, I encourage you to just lean into that and really like take those opportunities that Matt gives us to grow in our faith. And because like the reality is, like, it may seem like this is a very strong word, but it may seem like oppressive, like, oh, he's forcing us to pray. But like, I'm just gonna say, like, there's merit in like the things that Matt like has us do at the youth group, and he does it for a reason. He does it because he loves us, to get to know the God who loves us, obviously. So that's what I have to say about that.
Cool. Thank you so much, Alex. You're making me blush. But yeah, I think that's an important point, dovetailing off what you guys were saying. We can't all be like Zach Stair and be the person that plays mass since we were growing up. But no, I think that is really important, and something that I've definitely like seen in all of you guys is that like, I don't think and you guys were just sharing this in your vocation stories too, that like it wasn't like like when a kid grows up and they want to be a firefighter, and it's like, like that's all I'm going to do, and that's what I'm really going to be, and then like they spend their whole life fixating on that, and they reach that goal and they obtain it. Or a kid says that about being a doctor or a sports player or whatever. But I think what you guys are saying, it's like you all had a gradual unfolding, and maybe the desires were there earlier, or maybe they weren't, but you guys had a gradual unfolding of like, is this something that God is calling me to? Like, yes, I think this is something that God's calling me to, and I want to go pursue it further, which ultimately, put you guys in the seminary where you're at right now. But I think that's important for, the teens that we have in our youth ministry, and anybody that might be watching this to remember. It's just that, like, if you're called to be a priest, if you're called to be a religious, it's not a matter of, there's going to be one defined point in time where you're like, lightning bolt will strike from God, and you say like, absolutely 100%, I'm supposed to be a priest. But, it's an unfolding and responding to God's grace in the time. So I think it's beautiful what you guys shared. something that you guys all brought up in one way or another was the importance of other people in developing your own sense of vocation where God was calling you to. And at least like, there's kind of like a twofold thing going on with your vocation stories. On the one hand, like it was responding to God's grace and responding to what he was doing in your life. But then on the other hand, I think too, something really significant was the influence of other people, be it people within youth ministry, the friends that you had, and I think certainly most importantly, priests, the priests that you guys knew in your life. Zach, you touched on Father Steve. Al, you touched on Father Nick and Father Weber, and Bryce, you touched on Father Foy and Father Winker as well. And so I don't know, can you guys, maybe like one or two, just speak to that really quick? Like, what's the importance of relationships and other people in terms of supporting you in vocation and helping you to better understand vocation, be that a friend or a priest or a core member in youth ministry, something along those lines. Michael, what would you think about that?
Yeah, for sure. First off, can you guys hear me okay? Am I cutting in or out? Am I right?
No, you're good right now.
Okay, we're good. Yeah, I mean, exactly what you said. I mean, just the importance of having those relationships with people, I mean, is, it's indispensable. I mean, we think too, we look at Jesus, right? I mean, he sent the disciples out 2 by 2. Like, we can't do it on our own. And that's something I think we got to realize, and just be like, humble ourselves and realize like, yeah, like I need other people. Like, and sometimes it's very easy to, I know it was for myself, like to be kind of scared, like, I'm just going to keep this to myself. And so like, maybe people won't understand me, or people won't they won't have the answer, and so just like be able to recognize it, and realize that, yeah, it's not the case. Like, reach out to other people, reach out and ask them for help. So like I said, for multiple things. So like you said, even to responding to God, and just the importance of surrounding yourself with friends that are going to push you, friends that are going to encourage you to be who it is that God wants you to be. And it's very easy just to like fall into hanging around people that just they don't push you. It's comfortable. Like just to really challenge you to like find people who are because like I said, like we weren't meant to do it alone. And if we think that we can, we need all the help we can get. So, and then I was just a high schooler. I had all kinds of questions about what seminary looked like, I didn't even know what the priesthood was. Like I knew they went up there and they celebrated mass for us and they took away my sins when I asked them to. That was my basic understanding of just like, this is what priests do, and then they go and they pray. But like that's not the case. And like in order to come and to know, I need to ask these people who are living this way of life. And then to also just like to encourage, whether it be a seminary, whether it be a convent, if this is something that the Lord has placed in your heart, like go and visit this place. Like come and see like this place. And because when you're trying to discern something, like you can't discern yourself and to be present there at that place. That's what I would say. Sorry if I was cutting in and out. Kind of spotty.
We get most of the gist of it, so it still works.
I'm glad.
No, but truly, that was good, Mike. I don't know. I was just thinking as you were talking too, like I remember, spoiler alert, I didn't go to the seminary, but I remember the first time that I ever felt like I might have a call to the priesthood. And it really wasn't born out of my own desire necessarily. But God really spoke through another person who was like, hey, like you really could be a priest. Like, you ever thought about being a priest? It wasn't like condescending or weird to me. I was just like, huh, maybe I could be a priest, you know? But I think definitely what you're saying, like, sometimes other people, I mean, it's just a fact of life, right? But like, sometimes other people see things in you that you don't see in yourself. And I think the same can apply to the priesthood, you know? I don't think most people naturally think, wow, I totally can become a priest. But I think, you know, the relationships that we have with other people help in sort of fleshing that out a little bit. Bryce, quick question for you. You mentioned about Father Nick and Father Foy and Watchmen, you know, the glory of Watchmen days. But speak a little quick, and if there's more priests too, you can, you know, pepper those, throw them in as well. Like, what is the example of the priest in your life? What are the examples of the priest in your life been out forming your own vocation?
Yeah. I say, so yeah, Watchmen was the big thing to kind of get things started. And I think the big thing I got from that, and especially in Father Nick and Father Foy, was, you know, that these guys are not only just like normal people, but they're also like, they're pretty cool. You know, we did, both of them are really, really smart. And so we did like some science experiments, like blew some things up, you know, just things you do with priests. And it's like, it was one of these things that for me, you know, and this is something I would definitely kind of advocate for, like going to youth group, because I'm the one person who didn't. So that's, first of all, you can't get into seminary without going to youth group, but I'll say that it's definitely a regret, because for me, it was always in my mind, I'm like, those are the people that like just want to pray or whatever, and they're kind of like, they're lame-os, like, you know, whatever. And I'm not exactly the coolest individual myself, but getting to know priests who, you know, who live this sort of like normal life, and they have like these interests that normal people have, and going to the seminary and like finding seminarians who, I know for me, because I grew up playing a lot of video games and things like that, you know, like found seminarians who enjoyed that same stuff. And I think knowing that seminarians are just kind of people too, like us, and then how much that translated to priests. So for me, you know, the first priest I kind of really got to know from seminary and through these things was Father Vortreed. He's absolutely wonderful. He's just a joy to be around. He's a great priest. And him and all these other priests that I've met through seminary are just like great examples. You know, it'll be something that's like, you know, this guy is really good at this one thing. You know, he's really comfortable around people, and people love being around him. And I think for me, you know, I can often have a sort of negative view of myself, and I want to strive to be like them in those things. You know, I want to be able to be with people and to be, you know, this comforting presence like this person is. And I think that's just kind of, it's one of those things that, you know, we can often think of people as sort of just kind of the labels that we give them. And when it comes to priests, I've just been able to know them kind of like you do just anyone else, like some of your best friends. You know, like, he's really interested in this, or, you know, maybe like if you get him talking about this, he'll talk for way too long about it, you know. And I think it's just wonderful because you get to know that they're normal people. They're not just like weird people who pray all day. So yeah, I think that's been really important for me.
Yeah, cool. Thank you for sharing that, Bryce. I was just thinking about, as you were talking to, we're very fortunate at ICD for a lot of things, obviously. But I just think the examples of the amazing associates that we've had, and just how blessed we are just as a youth ministry. When I first got here at youth group every single Sunday, you know, never missed for anything. And then when he got transferred to St. Gabe's, then ArchSTL came in and did the same, and he has been there every Sunday ever since. And Deacon Ruby came in at the same time, now Father Ruby, and he was there every single Sunday when he was a deacon. And I don't know, I just think back to, remember that, I can't remember if it was your senior year, Alex, or if it was Michael's senior year. But the year where we had Father Purcell, Deacon Ruby, and then seminarians Brett and Paul. And so, like, and then Father Nord would all like show up randomly all the time too. So like at any given time, we'd have like 5 callers in the room on a Sunday night just perusing the youth room. But no, I think to what you guys are saying, it's like, you know, if you want to understand what the priesthood looks like, if you want to understand what a vocation looks like, just go and see and become friends with priests. Ask them, you know, about their lives and what it looks like. And I don't know. I always used to just think that the priesthood was sort of this like, you know, crazy thing where if I wanted to become a priest, then I just had to go sit in a room for, you know, 18 hours a day and pray and then come out occasionally to say mass, and that was it. But in getting to know, like, you know, priests throughout my lifetime in high school and, you know, the priests that we have here and you guys as seminarians, like, there's such a vibrant life to the priesthood. So exactly what you were saying, Bryce, like, it's not like, you know, this crazy life, but it's, you know, normal in a lot of sense. Like, they're normal people. They do a lot of crazy things, you know, representing Christ on the altar is one of them. But like, it is, you know, a fairly important thing to remember that, you know, they're normal. And when it comes to understanding vocation, like, just get to know your priest, know who they are. So I think that's awesome. All right. Obviously, you know, going to the seminary, it's not like a, you don't like choose going to the seminary like you choose going to a college. You know, you're like comparing, contrasting, like, you know, well, like, what major are they going to offer me, or what, you know, like, what kind of scholarship is the seminary going to offer me? Do they have Division I golf? But like, for you guys, I would say, like, something that has always given me a lot of joy is like hearing how you guys live in the seminary. And it's like always brought me a lot of joy to just like see the life that you guys have and how incredible it is. And the seminarians that I've known in my life, like, it is amazing to hear the stories about like what they love the most about the seminary. And so for you guys, just give me like a quick, like, give me a quick pitch, you know, like if you were like, you know, if you were like a college recruiter trying to get somebody to go to their college, but don't think in those terms. Like, just what is the best part about the cemetery? What's the best part about it? It's got a lot of headstones, you know. But what would be the best part about the seminary for you? The thing that is just, you know, the absolute best. So, Ryan, why don't we get started with you?
Well, I think first, you know, you just have to acknowledge that we like literally have Jesus living like a floor beneath us. So like just being able to go and visit him like 5-10 minutes throughout the day completely changes the way you live your life throughout the day. But on a more like fun level, like seminary is crazy. Like we do weird things like all the time, and like just the small little things that we do that are weird are like my favorite thing ever. For example, Michael put up like a mini hoop basketball hoop in our bathroom because we have like community style bathrooms, and you know, balling out with the boys in the bathroom is pretty good time. And you know, you wouldn't expect seminarians to be doing that. So there's just a lot of silly things that guys do that, you know, you wouldn't find anywhere else. So
That's awesome.
Box,
Michael, what about you guys?
can I ask Box a question real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
Box, is it fun when I'm dunking on you all the time? I'm just wondering.
you're lucky we're in quarantine, Mike.
Oh, okay. You just wait.
Wait, Mike, you brought that up. That reminded me. Ryan, do you remember our famous Luke 18 entrance?
Yeah. But I almost remember how I broke my finger?
I do. That was like,
We did into practice.
when I think of like some of my finest moments in youth ministry, that was one of them. Just like turning on the Space Jam theme song, having 200 people just like cheering us on while we just did these stupid dunks on a ball hoop. I was like, oh my gosh, that was so amazing. All right, anyways, non sequitur. Michael and Bryce, what would you guys say is the best part about seminary?
Me first, Michael first. I'll go first. I think for me, it really is. It's the brotherhood. You know, it's the other seminarians. You know, I never knew how much kind of living in an environment where every day when I get up, and some days when I don't want to get up, you know, I'm going to be surrounded by guys who want me to be better, you know, just every single day, you know, and guys who are, you know, like just they're really caring about, you know, how am I doing each day? You know, I think it's something that, you know, when I look at some kind of normal colleges, I guess, you know, a lot of people just kind of don't talk to each other. And, you know, there are people you probably go to school with that you'll never talk to. And in seminary, it's something that's like, first of all, not possible. You know, you live with these guys, even if you don't, you know, even if you don't all get along, you're going to talk to them a lot. And luckily, I think we all really do get along. And just this aspect of knowing that these guys not only are like, first of all, really awesome and really do care about me and like how I'm doing and how I'm growing. But, you know, we do pretty interesting things. Like Ryan said, you know, I've had the same basketball roll into the stall and I'm just like, I don't know what's going on. and it's just one of these things that's like, this is crazy. You know, it's like the fraternity that's there, like fraternity in a brotherhood sense. It's like, you know, having that, you know, it's like having a fraternity, but, you know, you don't have these aspects of just like everybody's throwing their lives away, you know, whatever. It is, you know, everybody's pushing each other to be a better person each day and to grow more and more. And it makes it so much easier to like be a good person, I guess, you know, when everyone else around you is trying to do the same exact thing. So.
Yeah, for sure. And Bryce, I would just say too, like you mentioned the fraternity, like I think it is so, obviously you guys like aren't all like best friends with each other. But like, I just think it's amazing the fact that the five of you are in seminary together and like you all know each other really super well. And like you all, well, Ryan, you didn't go to ICD, but like the other four of you, like you all went to ICD and like you know each other and have this basis of friendship. And like, I don't know, that to me is one of the coolest things to see too, is that like, I remember being so afraid of going into the seminary when I was in high school because I was like, if I go, I'm going to be the only person, you know, and like seminary seems cool and all, but like there's 150 guys or, you know, I was just pulling that number out of my head. I don't know if that is, but I was like these guys and then like, I'm going to be the one, you know, and I'm not going to know anybody else. And it's going to be weird. So I think it's awesome that, you know, you guys get that. But then aside from that, the fact that like the seminary is so good at building up fraternity and just really bringing people into the fold and fostering good brotherhood. So on to you, Mike.
Yeah, I'm gonna piggyback off of both of them. And I mean, first, I mean, you live under the same roof as Jesus. The opportunity that it is to live a life that is like basically, I mean, in a way we have a very structured schedule, and so like it's part of our way of life that we come and have that opportunity to come and spend time with Jesus every morning and throughout the day. But particularly, yeah, like you're walking through the hallway, like it takes me a minute from my room to get down to the chapel and like just to sit in the presence of Jesus. And yeah, I mean, it transforms your day. And it transforms that whole atmosphere, the whole community. And so it's number one. And then of course, I mean, yeah, there's something so beautiful about that fraternity that Bryce is talking about and Box is talking about. It's just, yeah, I mean, it's so good. I mean, you can't really explain it. I mean, you come from like playing an intense game of like ultimate out on the field, and then you like walk over like, hey man, you want to pray a rosary? And then you got a group of like 6 guys like walking around the seminary just praying like a rosary together, like all sweaty and just like hanging out. And it's just like you're walking around that building, you're just looking, and you're just led to so much gratitude. It's just like so much gratitude for just these men that are next to you and that are bringing you to Jesus. I mean, it's just so beautiful. And seminary is, I mean, it's a continuation of the apostolic gathering around Jesus. And so it's just like to think like in a way we're like participating in like what the apostles participated in, and just like being able to live around Jesus and to enjoy one another with them. Just, you can't explain it.
Yeah, for sure. Michael, quick question for you. I know you didn't say this was your favorite part, but like for all the theological nerds out there, like what would you say? Would you say that the classes that you get to take, either at seminary or at SLU, like how would you rate your experience of those?
Classes in general?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in general, I mean, you're probably looking at the guy with coming into the college with the least amount of good study habits. So that's formation. That's the beauty of formation. You learn, and so I mean, at SLU, the classes are pretty good. I mean, it's your general education stuff. So you're taking your sciences, math, those basic kind of things. Once you get to the seminary, though, I mean, you can take some good classes at SLU. I know these guys are taking some good classes at SLU. I took a history of jazz at SLU. Pretty sweet. If you want to talk jazz sometime, hit me up. Other than that, I mean, yeah, the classes at seminary. I mean, I'm just in my first year of philosophy. It's good. It's knocking my socks off. So I mean, it's
to kind of butt in on that. I'm somebody who is like very much interested in school and like taking classes and stuff. So like very nerdy, all that. Not that Michael isn't good in class. It's the seminary is super interesting. You know, I think if you are someone who is really into like history and is really like kind of academic, I think seminary has got what you want. You know, seminary, the classes that I've been able to take, some of them have just been completely mind blowing, and it's super, super interesting. From an academics standpoint, I think, you know, you don't really have, like, I've not taken a boring class. And, you know, it can be challenging sometimes, you know, it's not easy, but I think everything I've done has been really fascinating. So.
So do you guys, I know it takes time before you start your actual like theology and philosophy classes. But like, Bryce, do you take theology classes now? Have you gotten to take in the past, or philosophy or anything like that?
Yeah. I guess so. Before seminary, you know, I took my senior year because they told me I didn't have to take a science or a math, so I didn't. Not recommended. That was definitely a lazy decision. But I took every religion class that St. Dominic offered that year, which I think was 6 or 7, which is not smart either. But it was really, you know, it was kind of this introduction. And then at seminary, your first 2 years are mainly at SLU, but I think you do still have that opportunity. So I took a Catholic morality class that was kind of a little bit of a breakdown of the catechism, and that was super fascinating. We watched Braveheart for like part of a class. It was great, you know, wonderful. But yeah, you definitely, even right now, like I'm taking a scripture class that is just like, it's completely like flipped on its head how I thought about parts of the Bible, and it's just, yeah, so it's really cool. You do get lots of opportunity, even kind of when you first walk in, to learn that theology and that philosophy.
Yeah, they, like we said, like the first couple of years, just like primarily general education classes, but like they give you tastes of like what to come, you know, like I'm in an intro to philosophy class right now, so like I'm kind of learning about like what my next 2 years are going to be studying. And we had like some introduction theology classes, as Bryce was talking about, to just kind of really to we know it, you know, like early on, but also so to keep us interested along the way, you know, to keep us looking forward. So.
Another
Yeah.
thing too, can I butt in?
No, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, like since we're not technically like theology majors, like a lot of our classes would be philosophy rather than theology, even though there are some. But we are having like homilies and like hour-long formation conferences from the most brilliant like theological priests around, you know? So like we definitely get a big dose of theology and just like God pretty much from those priests who are just amazing so much. So
Yeah.
I remember I
Sorry,
remember can I say one more? Okay. I remember like really wanting to get into that. Like, you know, I'm kind of one of those theology nerds. Like I was kind of like Bryce. I took like 5 theology classes at Dominic my senior year, and like a little bummed out that I didn't have any like theology like classes technically my first year. I remember the first formation conference that Father Schumer, our rector, gave this year. He called it Training on Love, and like I just remember sitting there just like blown away more than I ever have, and I'm like, this is it. Like this is what I've been waiting for. So it's pretty legit. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, sounds awesome. I don't know. I wasn't gonna say anything important. The only thing I was gonna say is like, I mean, I don't think this is like a clear indication that you should go to seminary if you're in high school, but like, I would say if you find yourself as someone who like loves philosophy or like loves theology, then my goodness, I think of a better place. Besides the Franciscan University of Steubenville, Ohio.
You can find more information about right here in this link.
Hey, Father Dave's offering free tuition, all right? There's no reason. But yeah, I really couldn't think of a better place to go to like study those. And, you know, like that's the genesis of what you do in a priesthood. It's like you focus on philosophy and theology, and you get to preach that to others by your words and by your way of life. So what an incredible formation. You know, I'm glad you brought that up, Ryan, too. That's like, you know, not just in the classes that you take, but in the formation that you get from your formators too. I remember at St. Joe growing up, one of our deacons was Deacon Fadiaro. I don't know if you guys get to have a lot of exposure with him. And he'll probably never watch this, but I remember like thinking when I was at St. Joe in high school, and he would like give 25-minute homilies at a daily mass during the summer. And I would be like, I remember like some people in the church would just be like, oh my gosh, you know, we got Deacon Aro again, he's going to go for 30 minutes. But I remember like sitting there in high school and be like, this guy is the coolest. So like the fact that you guys get to have brilliant minds like that who are able to form your faith, incredible, indispensable. Alex and Z, what about you guys? What would you say is the best part about the seminary for you?
You know, obviously, like you could piggyback off of all the things they said, and I don't really have an order of like my favorite things, but like one thing that I want to touch on too is what you were just hitting on, and Ryan was hitting on, just like the incredible priests that we have living with us at the seminary. Primarily, we just have priests from the Archdiocese of St. Louis training us, but there are different priests from different dioceses that come in to help with formation. But just like these are priests that Archbishop has entrusted with the formation of the future priests. So, like, yeah, they're really, I don't know if it's right to say, but like the cream of the crop, but like they're incredible people who really know Jesus and who really are fathers to us. And it's not easy. Like, it's not easy to be formed. Like it can be a grueling process. I think many of us can attest to that at times, of really reaching, you know, in every nook and cranny of our heart to like be like, what's going on? Like, what do I need to work on to become Christ the man, and God willing, Christ the priest. But these priests do it in like an incredible way, and you know, just like in our one-on-one meetings, and just challenging us, and to realize that's all coming from a place of love. You know, like the world doesn't need kind of lukewarm priests. The world needs, you know, priests that are striving for sainthood and are gonna bring that attitude to the parish.
Cool. Thanks, Al. Much easy.
Yeah, just to kind of piggyback off Alex, like, um, in a sense, like the word formation can be scary to a lot of guys. Like, what is that going to entail? Like, um, it just can seem a little scary, like having to have one-on-one meetings, and you might think, oh, they're gonna, yell at me or judge me or whatever. But in reality, kind of what Alex was saying, like, um, it's really all based on love, and they truly love us and want us to grow, want us to become good priests. Just sort of like to have that resource there of like great mentors that like truly care about you and will help you out with anything you're going through, anything, uh, any of your needs or concerns, is just truly a great resource. And like, yeah, for them just to have that caring aspect, it's not a game for them. It's really like a true like sense of love, and it's really great to have them there, and to have you know great father figures there, and the priests that really care for us and that we can look up to, and hopefully one day try to be like them.
To piggyback off of Zach really quick, I just remember like when I first entered seminary, like we were in orientation week, and like uh, the vice rector of the college kind of was giving this little fervorino, and he was talking about like he's like, I'm not interested in you becoming a priest, and I was just like, I was sitting there like first week of seminary, and just like, what the heck am I doing here? Like I just I had to seminary, like, and he's followed up with that saying like, I'm interested in you becoming the man that God is calling you to be. Um, and so that like really hits it. It's not a factory priest. They're not trying to crank us out, because that's like how you get, the priests that are lukewarm, and the priests that aren't leading the faithful to Christ. And yeah, so really, it just all comes from that place of love, and to get these men on, to get us into this intimate relationship with God, where we can pray about like where God is leading forward.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And just like to share with you guys kind of from my outset and looking at you guys, I can totally testify that formation that you're talking about is one of the coolest and best parts about the seminary. And so like if there is any high schooler that's looking in the seminary, I think that's one of the most appealing parts. And maybe it's hard to like put that into words why it is, but like I just in knowing you, like one of the interesting parts of being a youth minister is that I have you guys as teens, and then you go on to college, and then it's sort of a transition that takes place. But like there's a transition from me being like, oh, this Alex was an ex-teen of mine, like he was a former teen now in college, and now it's his life. But like for all of you guys, and I know Katie says the same thing too. When we see you guys at family dinners or whatever, but just like in seeing you guys from high school and seeing you to like right now, I look at you guys and I don't just see like ex-teens in high school or former teens that went to ICD that are now in college. But like you guys are men, like real men who are striving to understand what it means to be the man that God called them to be. And so I can't think of any better way to spend college than doing that. Obviously, you can get that in a variety of different circumstances, but I would say that's one of the best appeals of the seminary. Like, it seems to me that the formation that you get there, you really get a great understanding of who you are as a man. So much so that, like, even if you decide not to, stay in the seminary the entire time, like, you still receive an incredible formation, still receive incredible education in who you are. So sort of like rounding home last things that I want to touch on with you guys. And then if there's anything else you think that's particularly pertinent to put in, feel free to object and insert yourself. But I just want to ask you guys a few quick questions. Like, again, I'm kind of sort of putting myself in the mind of maybe a high schooler or a high school guy listening to this, or just anybody in general. But just sort of like maybe some common things that you've heard people say, or questions in terms of vocation. So a big one that I get a lot is, I am thinking about the priesthood, but I don't want to tell my parents about it, or I don't want to tell anybody about it because I'm not sure how they'll react. Sort of just like keeping it in on themselves. Do any of you guys have any input? Like, what would you say to somebody who said that to you? Like, maybe I have this desire, but like, I'm really scared to talk to my parents about it. Or I'm really scared to talk to somebody else about it. Does that kind of make sense? Anybody want to take a stab at that?
Let's say that there are safe ways to go about that. Like you guys have Matt at ICD for like, if you're a little nervous to go to your parents about that, then Matt would be maybe a good start. And he could help you like maybe effectively bring that news to your family. Also, it could just be like a good opportunity for you to, I guess you could say like evangelize your family, just to like bring like, hey, like this is what's been going on in my prayer. Like, like obviously this looks very different from family to family, but like it would be a very good opportunity for you to kind of share with your family like what's going on in your prayer, and like maybe that would positively affect the faith life of your parents or your family. Yeah, to kind of go back, it's just like there's safe places to bring it up. Like talk to Father Purcell, talk to Father Ruby, talk to Matt, and they can help you with that.
Mm-hmm. Cool, thank you, Alex. Another question I got for you, Z. How about you go for this? Do I have to know that I'm a priest if I want to go? Do I have to know that I'm a priest to go to the seminary?
No. Like no one's gonna be for sure, and if you are, then they're gonna be like, no, you're not for sure. That's just how it works. Like seminary is a house of formation and discernment. Like, I mean, there's a lot of things that go through. Like in your time of formation in the seminary, and a lot of prayer that goes through it. And yeah, like none of us are 100% certain, and like in a way, like we all desire this 100% certainty. That's just like kind of part of our humanity, that like we want to be certain about everything we do if it's the right thing. But I think that's just where faith comes in, and really trust that you have a feeling and have a desire, and talk to people about it and think it's like the right thing to do. Then like you do really have to just trust in Jesus and have that faith to enter in and take that step.
Cool, thank you, Z. Michael, this is another one I get. I know that you were all of you were discerning. I don't think all of you were like, oh yes, I'm going to the seminary my senior year of high school. But I know you in particular, Michael, you were looking at a few schools, Franciscan being one of them. I don't know how like seriously that was. But like another thing that I get a lot, or I hear a lot, is guys will say something to the effect of like, like I want to go in the seminary, but also like, my parents maybe are suggesting this, or maybe just like, society, like I'll just go to college for 4 years, and like then I'll decide after I go to college if I should go to seminary or not, which is valid in some circumstances, I think. But it depends on the discernment of the individual, of course. But what would you say to somebody who maybe that's their kind of bottom line rationale, and maybe it's not really grounded in like that much discernment, but it's kind of just like, well, society says it's a good idea to have a 4-year degree from a university. So I'll go to college, and then if I'm still feeling like I should go to the priesthood after that, then I'll go to the seminary. What would you say to that?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because I think that's something that we hear a lot, and I think it was probably something that was very active in all of our discernment. By the way, I visited Franciscan, great school. I went out there, so it's good. But actually, well, fun fact, I actually had applied and was accepted to Benedictine. And so like I said,
99% acceptance rate over there.
I was, like very actively like discerning whether I wanted to go to seminary or whether the Lord wanted me to go to seminary, or whether he wanted me to spend however many years at Benedictine. And kind of what I would say is kind of what it was for me was, I'd been in this place my junior and senior year. As for most people, if they were kind of praying about taking on an application to the seminary, of like, Lord, what is it that you want me to do? picking colleges is a kind of a stressful time, especially when it's just like you got your counselors and your parents over your shoulder, just like trying to tell you to like fill out all these applications, things like that. And so, but basically, like when you look interiorly and you look at like how it is you've been like praying to Jesus and just like these desires that he's placed in your heart, or kind of that restlessness of just like, Lord, is this what you desire for me? Is this what you want me to do? I was at a place where I was just like, wasn't at peace, because I knew that there was something there. And so it's kind of like, if I were to go to Benedictine next year, like the next year, the next 2 years, like, is my prayer just going to be the same exact thing, to where it's just like, Lord, do you want me to go to seminary? Like you've put this desire in my heart, this inkling of a call. And it's just like, I feel like I'd be in the same place I'm at now, where I'm just like not at peace. And so if you've placed this call in my heart, why not now? And I think that's really just the kind of the advice I would give to people, is just like, if the fruit of your prayer is that the Lord is like continuing to kind of put this like restlessness on your heart, this lack of peace, or it's just like wanting you to take that step, it's really just like, why not now? I mean, you know, you can wait two years, you can wait 4 years, get your degree, but it's just like the Lord's calling you now. Like, say yes, but it's hard. I know it's hard, but just yeah, that's kind of what I would say.
Yeah, beautiful. Thanks. One last like mind of a high schooler question for you, but Bryce, I'm going to put you on the hot seat for this one. So strap in your seatbelt. You know, put myself in the mind of a high schooler, maybe discerning a call to the priesthood. You know, obviously, like there have been a lot of things in the news lately where, you know, there have been some scandals possibly surrounding just the institutional church, and it can be, you know, easy and tempting to look at those things and just be like, oh, you know, like maybe I feel this call to be a priest, but like I don't know if I want to be associated with that, or, you know, like, you know, if the priesthood all it's cracked up to be, or, you know, thoughts like that. So in light of like that being the climate, yes, both in our church and in society and how it views the priesthood, what would you sort of give as a response to that, as to the beauty of the priesthood and the importance of the priesthood, and just as someone that's in the seminary right now studying towards becoming a priest, how even in spite of those things, like those things don't matter, and what the priesthood actually is and its significance to you?
Yeah. I think first of all, you know, it's those are thoughts that you're going to have, you know. Yeah, it's no longer this kind of, the priesthood isn't necessarily looked up to in kind of a society sense of like, you know, this perfect person or whatever. And especially with what's gone on, I think it is proper to kind of have those thoughts of like, do I want to have that kind of, that even that possibility just around that, you know, I might be shunned or whatever it might be. And, you know, I think part of that is, you know, the church is in need of good priests. And so, you know, I guess part of it is it's more of a challenge now than ever to be a good priest, because kind of all eyes are on you. And I think it's in the heart of every, you know, young man who's probably discerning seminaries, that they want to do something that changes, you know, the world around them. And they want to do something that is really amazing and extraordinary. And that's what the priesthood is. You know, it isn't, you know, the normal thing that people go for, but it's not supposed to be. You know, it is going to be tough. There is this sort of bad rap around it. But, you know, that doesn't mean we abandon the church. You know, it means that we need to rise to the occasion and show people that that's not what the priesthood is. You know, that's what these people did, that these priests did, but not anymore. You know, then and to be able to have that opportunity even now, you know, when I talk to people, there are some times when people will ask me, you know, why would you want to do that? Why would you want to do what you do? Because, you know, everybody's going to label you or whatever it might be. And in a way, it is countercultural. You know, it's not it's not expected. And you know, in that way, I think it is really amazing, you know, and the life of the priesthood isn't about, you know, what people in the news are saying about you or your brothers. And it's about what you do each and every day, being with the people of the Lord and celebrating Mass and having these amazing opportunities. You know, what could be more beautiful than that? You know, I think a really great point that was brought up to me recently was, you know, a lot of the time in what we get to do, and in this kind of life, you'll be mistaken for Christ. You know, and what greater joy is that than to have other people think that you are God? You know, like, even remind people, you know, that God is there for them, and for you to be able to be that, you know, that is amazing. That is so wonderful, you know, and it's something that for me, that kind of active aspect of it, you know, being able to help with the poor and the downtrodden and the people who need it in that way, you know, that is so beautiful. And there are times where it can kind of get to you, you know, what the media says or whatever it might be. And it's in those times where you're really with people and you really know, you know, kind of, and it's strange because you can't explain it exactly, but just in the moment, you know, this is what is right and this is what God wants. It doesn't matter what, that all that kind of social anxiety just melts away, because, you know, the truth is so much more beautiful. And so I think to kind of offer it as, not only is it a beautiful experience, it's a necessary one. You know, the church needs good priests. And so kind of, it's a challenge to young men. Certainly it's no longer, you know, you can't be like, oh, you know, I'll go into seminary and being a priest will be easy and whatnot, because it's not going to be. You know, it really isn't nowadays. And so to kind of keep that in mind, that, you know, you're kind of presenting yourself to society and kind of challenging it. You know, you're going to say that what you think of the priesthood isn't true, and I'm going to prove that. And having something to prove in that way, I think, is really powerful. So,
Yeah. Wow. I wish we could just like take what you just said and like make it go viral somewhere, because that was beautiful. That was really nice. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, but I mean, definitely, I think speaking to that, like, and that's something that even when I was in high school attracted me to the priesthood, was like this side, not, you know, like a falsely romantic view of the priesthood, but just this sort of heroism and courage that I think all priests have by the nature of their priesthood. That, you know, yes, they act in the person of Christ and they assume that role when they offer the sacraments. But on the other end, like, what an amazing, courageous life that priests lead in order to follow Christ, in order to take up his example and to live as he would have lived and to be that for the people. I think it's incredible to witness. And certainly for me, all the priests I've known in my life, I see an amazing draw to the priesthood in that way. Like, okay, sure, maybe society doesn't, you know, understand why one person would want to become a priest and not get married and have children, but like, you get to be a witness to the beauty of that vocation. You get to be a witness to what Christ can tangibly look like lived out in the world. And I think that is an amazing thing to behold. So how long have we been talking? I don't have a clock in front of me.
We're pretty long here.
A while.
How long? I don't care how long it is, but how long is it?
It's probably been about an hour and 15 minutes, so we're probably gonna start wrapping up.
Nice. I thought it was longer than that, but cool. No, great. So I think the last thing that I would have for you guys, unless you think there's anything better to put into, add that. But I would think the last most important thing, maybe just like, you know, since we've been going for a while, maybe just give it like, you know, a minute or less. But like, what would be just the biggest piece of advice that you would give a high schooler discerning a vocation to the priesthood? And I don't know, maybe put yourself in the context of like something that you really wish you would have heard when you were in high school. And, you know, looking back in your experiences, you wish someone would have said to you yeah, what would just be your biggest piece of advice that you would give a high school boy who's discerning a vocation to the priesthood or religious life? How about we go, let's just go in order of seniority. So I think Bryce was born before Michael. Oh, you were not. There you go.
Brutal.
I guess
Michael
was born so late in May that it would be you. But yeah, why don't we go with Michael, Bryce, Alex, and then Z and Ryan. I can't remember which one of you comes first, but
All right, I'm gonna give you three. Yeah, that's three. Three things. First, I'm gonna say pray. Just very, very generally, pray for an increase desire. So ask for the grace to desire to do God's will. That'll do so much. And the Lord desires nothing more than to grant that desire for you. So pray for a desire. Second, we've talked about it a good amount. That is, reach out to people who reach out to us. But if you're a young man thinking about the priesthood, thinking about the seminary, you want to learn more, reach out. Be bold enough to go on a retreat. If you're a young woman, like we've had plenty of exposure to, maybe it could be hard for you to find a place to go to talk to someone about that. Like, we would love to talk to you about that as well. But just talk to someone. And then third, pray to Mary. Ask Our Lady for her guidance in your vocation. It's right there, she is. Just pray and ask her, whether it be just 3 Hail Marys a day, specifically for her guidance and her in your vocation. I mean, that's why continue to grow in that relationship with Our Lady, though, especially pray with her fiat, and ask for her help. So those are my 3. Thanks.
All right. My 3, no. I guess I do have 3 words I think to keep in mind is be not afraid. Because it's something that going into seminary, I had pretty much no idea what was going to happen. I'd been on seminary retreats and everything, and it's wonderful to get to know the people, but you don't necessarily know the life through and through. You get an idea of it. But you learn when you get there. And I think the big thing is just the future can be really scary because we just don't know what's coming. You're standing at the cliff's edge and you don't know what's happening next. And I think the really important thing there is just be not afraid. The Lord has his will for you. And if you're following it, great things will happen. You'll do amazing things that, you never would have thought you would have been able to do before. And, there are people who are going to tell you that what you're doing isn't right, or, and there will be plenty of people who will tell you just how wonderful you are to be able to follow something like this. And so I think that's the biggest thing for me is, trust in the people around you and trust in the Lord that he wants the best for you, because he really does, even when there are times where you don't know what that looks like. And so if you're discerning seminary, be not afraid. Don't be afraid to take that leap and to trust that the Lord is going to catch you.
I try to keep mine short. I'm a firm believer. It's just growth in faith and growth in holiness. If you commit yourself to that, commit yourself to the sacraments, to the sacrament of confession, daily Eucharist, possibly. Literally everything in your life will fall into place. It's just like growth in holiness. It's just like simple, bare bones, but like that's it. And like God will lead you to where you need to be.
I think I'm older than you, Zach, so I'll go. Kind of echoing Alex, but kind of phrasing it in a different way. Just simply, above all else, just fall in love with Jesus. It can be so easy to just fall into this trap of overthinking everything But above all else, like his vocation for you is just how he's going to love through you and how he wants to give that to his church. And so yeah, go fall in love with Jesus and stay in love with Jesus, and everything will be fine. So
Yeah, I think most of the things been pretty much said so far, but just like echoing everybody else. Yeah, just adding like have holy friendships and surround yourself with people who are going to support you in your vocation and in your relationship with Jesus. And strive together. You know, we're not meant to do this alone. So just build that community wherever you are, and yeah, just love Jesus with your friends. They're gonna help you get there.
Well, cool. Thank you guys so much for this time today and for talk with me. I mean, I know we're all friends, so it's kind of, you know, just like an extended conversation we'd have regardless. But this was like super awesome to talk to you guys. And I would just give this final little admonition to any high schooler who might be watching this. But like, again, not to dote on you guys too much and, you know, puff your heads up too much and build your egos through the roof. But like, you guys are just, you're men. And that's all I was thinking of as we were talking. Like, you guys are just such men. And you have such, you obviously aren't perfect. None of us are. But you guys have such a deep understanding of yourself and such a deep understanding of the Lord's presence in your life. One, that comes through what you've gotten to receive through the seminary so far and are going to continue to receive through formation in the seminary. So, like, I think that in of itself is an amazing appeal to the seminary, is the formation that you get through it. But two, another amazing appeal is just like, you guys are so, like, you respond so well to the grace that God gives you in your life. And so, like, Bryce, I thought you hit it on the head, and I would just echo the same thing. Like, to anybody that's watching this right now, like, be not afraid, and really lean into what God is inviting you to do in your own life, because it's the most exciting thing you could possibly do. And I look at all of you, and I'm so grateful that, like, we've gotten to continue to be friends, and, you know, having you guys over for dinner every month and all that jazz. But like, to me, as both a youth minister, but I think more importantly, like, your brother in Christ and as a friend in Christ, like, I look at you guys and I see some of the most alive men that I've ever encountered in my life. And I don't say that just like, you know, some of the most alive teenagers that I've ever had in youth ministry, or some of the, you know, the best teens that have ever come through youth group. Like, I take stock of guys I knew in high school, guys I knew in college, guys that were in my household at Franciscan when I was in college, you know, guys I'm close with now. And you guys are just men. You are men who are focused on God, and who are holy, and who are seeking to do what he wants above all. And because of that, you're so filled with joy and so filled with life. So what could possibly be more exciting than that? So, you know, for all of you, thank you for who you are, and thank you for, you know, your openness right now. But I would say, especially to any high schooler that's watching this and listening to this, like, be not afraid. Take Bryce's words, be not afraid, and take the words of all the seminarians today, take them to heart, and know that the priesthood is such an amazing calling, and the seminary is such an amazing place to grow. There's no need to be afraid of it, and there's no need to be anxious or scared of it, but it is an amazing opportunity for you to follow God if that is where he is calling you in your life. So cheers, and why don't we end just in a brief prayer for Thanksgiving to God and Vocations? Why don't we go like the Samuel route, and we'll just go youngest. So Zach, you can round us out.
All right. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. Jesus, we thank you for this time of gathering us together to speak on vocations and our potential calls. We ask that you give guidance to all those discerning any vocation, that they may fall in love with you and take your advice and go wherever you lead them. Pray through the intercession of Mary Immaculate. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Cool. Thank you, boys. Peace. I'll be seeing you soon, hopefully.
You, Matt.
Absolutely.